All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg, and again, a little tardy this morning, well, afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you may be. I do apologize. I mentioned this on the air last week. I will, come clean. I've been really fatigued lately and haven't been sleeping well, so it's that really horrible combination of not enough sleep and then super, super fatigued. On top of that, I'm even more tired than I would be normally given how little sleep I'm getting. So the time when I can seem to sleep best is in the morning. And so I've been getting up a little later. So that's why I'm starting the show a little bit late. I guess I could move the start time. It's not that late, right? It's 15 minutes. But I try to be on time because we do take your calls. 240. By the way, new phone number. 240, you can see it right there, 242-5646. I'm trying a different system. For those geeky, nerdy tech people out there, and I'm certainly the leader, the king of the geek nerds, I guess, like in 16 Candles. I think that was Anthony Michael Hall. So I'm very always interested in what kind of tech changes can I make. And that doesn't always work out for me, to be honest with you. I have another saying I like, which is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And a lot of times I'm a screwed up yourselfer type person. So there you go. I got enough cliches into this conversation. Yeah, the new number, 240-242-5646. If you call the old number, I've got that phone off. I got two different phone systems. I got 3, 4, I don't know how many. I got Zoom. I got Google Meet, I got Google Voice, and I've got DialPad. I was using DialPad for your calls up until today. I'm going to try Google Voice now, and the reason is because it's free. I think it's going to work just as well. I was able to get a second Google Voice number. I thought it would cost me money. Turns out it doesn't. So if it works, I hope you call. I've tested it. I have tested it. I haven't just left this out there. So I have tested the system. It seems to work, but real world is always the best. So if you call me 240-242-5646, we'll, among other things, discuss the issues of the day, but we'll be able to test the new phone system. And if it works, pretty soon I'll cancel my DialPad. I think I bought it. I have a month-to-month. It may be an annual. If it's an annual, it'll end by the end of, I think, April. So that'll be the latest. I'll have the two set up. Systems, but the old number is not gonna. I won't even know it rings because I don't have it up. So you got to call 240-242-5646 if you want to talk to me today, and presumably that'll be the number I'll be using going forward. I note tomorrow's program you're not going to want to miss, especially if you're a Marylander. I will be interviewing Juan Dominguez. He's running for Senator, U.S. Senate, to take the seat of the retiring Ben Cardin. I'm very, very excited by candidate Dominguez. He is running on a true progressive platform, which includes Medicare for all. So I'm going to have to force myself to get up, to fight through that fatigue tomorrow morning and get ready for that interview. And I'll probably also spend some time after this call as well if I can. But I do want to get a nap in too. All right, do call. I really want to talk to you. It's been a few days. 240-242-5646. By the way, I mentioned Jeff. I've been responding to some of his comments I thought I was kind of, all right, I'll say touch. He did post something that showed some desire, if you will, I think, to have a dialogue. And so I was pleased. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. And you've done that in the past. I know you have very strong feelings that are almost wholly negative about what I do. But again, I'm just trying to find solutions to the problems that I face. It's not a personal thing. It really isn't. It's not personal. I rarely am personal here. I'm just trying to come up with solutions. I get personal when it comes to elected officials who betray their constituents, who lie to us, yeah. Who promote endless war, killing, who are thieves and flim-flammers, yeah. Those people, I'm going to be personal. Both parties, corrupt. Both parties' leadership is self-serving, not public servants. So I'm not going to pull any punches there. When it comes to conversations with you, I believe very, very strongly that the best way we can come to some solutions to our problems, which I generally think most of us agree with what those problems are, and how a better society would look. We don't all see it the same way, and there's a lot of differences on the margins. I think most of us want an America where everyone has enough to eat, safe place to sleep, education, remunerative, interesting, relatively interesting work. I think that's something we all kind of want. And I think most of us, maybe not all, I know I've seen exceptions to this, which always surprises me, disappoints me. I think most of us recognize it's not a good thing for certain people to have billions of dollars, to have so much, to have everything, literally, when others have nothing. And a lot of the problems we face are as a direct result of that. But, hey, we all, what makes the world go round are different views. No question about it. All right, 240-363-7190. Why am I not hearing myself? I am streaming. I think I must be going out there. Is there a mute? I guess I got myself muted. I'm going to sometimes I test. So just so you know, because I do this all myself, and I had my tab muted. But there I go. So I could hear me. So anyway, that's good. The good news is I can hear me, and I sound good. So there it is. It's the microphone. For those geek, nerdy people, yes, I use the Shure SM7B. I bought several when I had the radio station for use, and they're, the gold standard in broadcast microphones. I brought one back with me that I had purchased in Monterey to use on my live stream here. And when I reconstituted it, the old mic was not working. It was dead. I may have dropped it, I think, is what caused the damage. These are very heavy, and they can be damaged easily. So I took it over to my local music store, Chuck Levin's Music World, in case you're interested, also known as Washington Music Center. Brought it over there, and they said they would try to repair it. I told them exactly what had happened. They said, it's an old mic, it's 10, 12, 15, I think it dates back at least to 2012. So it's an old mic, but we can probably repair it. And they sent it over to Shure, and I was really pleased. This is not an advertisement for Shure, but I'm going to go ahead and promote what they've done. They just sent me a brand new mic. They said, we can't fix it, so we're just giving you a new mic. Now, they didn't give it. I shouldn't say we're giving. We're going to provide you with a new mic at the exact same cost that the repair would have been. And they were going to charge me $200 to repair the mic, which I thought was a good deal. The mic itself lists for $399, and it's never on sale, or virtually never. So they said, hey, here's your new mic, $200. I already paid it. I don't have to pay anything. So thank you, Shure. And if they hadn't done that, I might have gotten a different mic. But this is such a good microphone, and I like using it, and it looks cool and everything. So let's get to the stories of the day. I was really, and why am I not seeing my Firefox? Come on, man. I'm having a little trouble with my, maybe it's this. Yeah, this is another issue I've sort of noticed. I'm not seeing my slide deck, and I'm worried about that. Let me see. Maybe it's the, is it this? I don't have to restart my program, but it doesn't seem want to work. And I'm very frustrated by that, because you got to see that, the slide deck is a big part of this. Let me see if I try a different, yeah, the slide deck. Wonder, this can't be because of my, I believe this is a result of the changing the audio source. I did install one other app, and I do apologize, folks, because obviously we need to be able to provide you with the correct live video, imagery, right? I mean, that's key. That's absolutely key. Let's try this. No, it doesn't want to work. All right, well, if I have to go without a slide deck, that's all the more reason you got to give me a call. 240-363-7190. 240-363-7190. We'll try one other possible solution here that may or may not work. I'm hoping it will get that deck up for you, because, I mean, it's not like I'm flying blind. I know what I'm talking about, but it's better. It's definitely better if you can, hear the, or rather see see the slide. So let's see if we can get this up one more time. I want to get the Chrome. Looks like that. Try a different. All right, 240-363. No, 240-242. Remember, 5646. That is the new phone number. And by the way, it's a good thing I'm having this problem today with the slide deck, because I don't want to have that problem with on as tomorrow. That would be very unfortunate. So we'll see if we can get a new window capture, and we're going to try this one more thing and see if this works. And yeah, there it is. Oh, I wonder what. I'm going to put this, center it. Very strange. I like to use Firefox rather than oh, it doesn't even, that doesn't even, it was, and this is the thing, it was working before when I disabled my OBS. So there may be a problem, I'm thinking, with the OBS. Is peace possible in the Holy Land? I would say it is. But the problem is there are so many forces that are trying desperately to stop it. They really are. I mean, they're our politicians, the politicians in Israel. I posted a meme I put together where a hard right, even worse. I mean, he kind of said to me, there are worse people in the world than Bibi Netanyahu. I mean, I guess there must be, right? I mean, there's always going to be somebody even worse. But saying to me, there's got to be someone who's even worse than Bibi Netanyahu. And one of the reasons is that this guy in is it Knesset, says, I'm not going to support your government, Bibi, unless you go back to killing more Palestinians. There's a lot of pressure on Israel, and it's really, really good from the United States, but also, and this is why I did my my promo for today's program was with a comment by a Saudi a spokesperson who said, truce is not enough. A lasting ceasefire is needed. And that seems to me so obvious, right? I mean, is there any question but that's the case? And yet we have to look to Saudi Arabia, a country that, is such a bad actor in so many ways. I understand. I was speaking to a Saudi recently I met who said things are much better. He said, the media is always behind. You now have women driving in Saudi Arabia. They're not all wearing those, the chadors, which is the really, really, really tense thing, right? Is where it's like from body, a full body shawl or poncho almost that they wear. I know it's cloth, it's not poncho, but it's kind of the same shape, I guess. So this person said to me, it's really better. Things have gotten better in Saudi Arabia. Of course, we're critical of Saudi Arabia in a lot of ways. I guess do they still behead people? See, again, I may be behind the times. What they're doing in Yemen is terrible. But the Saudi Foreign Office is pushing for peace. And this spokesperson said it's not enough. This ceasefire, which is due to expire tomorrow, is simply not enough. And yet, we have been in this country far less willing to demand peace. There's so much conflict just in Congress alone between the Democrats and the Republicans. Some Democrats, Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey, is all in for Israel. He doesn't want anyone saying anything critical whatsoever about Israel, has called out Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, wants them out of the party, wants them sanctioned, voted to sanction them because they dared discuss the Palestinian people as human beings who deserve some kind of decent life. That's the American government. Biden has proven very feckless, although I guess ultimately he was able to push Netanyahu to accept the brief cessation of hostilities for 4 days that started Friday. Now it's been extended till tomorrow. And you have the Qatari negotiators and others really, really, really pushing hard. Russia also. China also. So all the countries that we are told are this axis of evil. They cannot be trusted. They're the worst people in the world. We've got to, call them out at every opportunity. And yet they're the ones who want to stop the killing. So I, again, question, I ask you not to believe everything that you read in the New York Times and the Washington Post, that you hear from our Democratic legislators, that Morning Joe tells you. So often they're wrong. Perhaps more often than not, they're lying to you if they're when they are wrong. It's obvious that there are many other ways to look at the world than through the neoliberal lens. And there are more accurate ways to look at the world than the neoliberal lens that our media and our government, especially the Democratic Party, but both parties really, present the world to. And even just the language, the verbiage that you read in the papers kind of demonstrate where their loyalties lie. So Shira Frankel reporting from Tel Aviv this morning, November 29th. As international pressure grows to extend the temporary ceasefire with Hamas, some right-wing members of Prime Minister Netanyahu's government are threatening to bring it down if he does not resume. And she writes, fighting in Gaza. I crossed out fighting. You can't see it, but you can see it if you go to Halitics group on Facebook and maybe my Twitter feed as well, which is Halitics, Hal Ginsberg. I changed fighting in Gaza to killing because basically that's what the IDF has done. It's not fighting, it's killing people. It's a turkey shoot. And I hate to use that expression because there's a sort of a humorous, those turkeys getting, but basically it's just helpless, unarmed or barely armed people facing perhaps the second most advanced military force in the world. And that's what Israel's doing. They're rampaging through. They're indiscriminately, wantonly murdering people, killing people. And it has to stop. And we have to absolutely. So will it stop? Can we stop it? Why hasn't it stopped if it hasn't stopped? Is there an answer to that question? And I would argue that a big part of the problem is, well, it's certainly our government. But it's, this is in the United States because we are seeing foreign countries, even countries that are reviled, that are routinely treated as somehow bad people, right? Bad, right? Like, again, Saudi Arabia. I'm not a fan of Saudi Arabia. I'm not a fan of China. I think these are countries that are hugely problematic. No question about it. No doubt about it. But they're taking the lead. We've abrogated our leadership responsibility to give to them the leadership role when it comes to peace or promoting peace or trying to save lives in the Middle East. This should be a source of great shame to Americans. We are supposedly, this great democracy, the beacon of freedom, of liberty, and we have offshored and outsourced our absolute burden. Hillary Clinton always, we're a special country, right? Didn't Hillary Clinton say that? There's a term they use, we're exceptional. This is the American exceptionalism. If we're exceptional, how come we're not the ones fighting for peace? I think the answer couldn't be more obvious. We're certainly not exceptional in some kind of positive way. All right, 240-283-70. No, 240-24. I'll get it right. It'll take me a while, but I'll get it. I will get it. And I think, I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, I may even have gotten this slide deck to work. We're going to find out. We're going to find out soon enough. Doesn't look correct yet, but I am going. We live in hope, right? We live in hope. That's where I am. Live in hope. Because I do want to get these slides up. They were good. I worked hard on it. I want you to see them. For some reason, my Windows 10, I think it must be this stupid Display Fusion thing that I'm using. That is the issue. And it's not. I'm not a happy camper. Try it over on this one. See if I can get it's not either. But all right. Okay. Bret Stephens in the New York Times. Now, I blame the media an awful lot for all the for these problems. So Bret Stephens, one of the offenders, New York Times neocon. I think he used to write, I don't think it was a National Review, but maybe it was New Republic. He wrote for a pretty conservative. So I don't think it was, New Republic is conservative, but I don't know that it was considered, well, certainly the New York Times wouldn't call it conservative, but Stephens, I think, maybe it was Wall Street. Okay, so he was writing for the Wall Street. And now he writes for the New York Times for whatever reason. He blames the left. It's progressives' fault if the war continues, if the killing continues. As he writes, I shouldn't say, well, and I actually agree with some of this. This is from Bret Stephens' column. I think it's is it today, yesterday? Let me look at the date, November 28th. The left is dooming any hope. I feel like it's radio. Remember, because in the old radio days, it was just me talking to you. And now it's just me talking to you, although you can see me. In the old days, you couldn't see me. See my gray beard. Guess I should shave. I'll shave. I know, I'm so tired. But I'm not sick. I don't feel sick. I don't have a congestion. I don't have a fever. I'm just unbelievable. The fatigue, man, is just killing me. So Stephens says it's the progressives' fault. It's the left's fault. We're dooming any hope for a Palestinian state. And he writes something that I sort of kind of agree with. On October 7th, which was the day, I guess, when, the massacre by Hamas in Israel, 1,200 or so Israelis killed, the axis of resistance became the face of the Palestinian movement. All right, well, I would agree. It was resistance. It was terrorism. It was terrorism for a political end. The political end is freedom for the Palestinian people. Right? I mean, that's what they're seeking. They want to be free. So the axis of resistance became they want the occupation of Gaza to end. They want the West Bank settlements to end. They want to be full citizens in a country between the river and the sea. That's what they want. They want freedom. They want self-determination. So that's resistance. That was what they did. Now, I don't like the fact that all these innocent people were killed. It's terrible. It's so sad. It's tragic. But I blame Israel more than Hamas, because when people are persecuted, when they're oppressed, they lash out. This is what happens. So the acts of resistance became the face of the Palestinian movement. On October 8th, demonstrators around the world chose to embrace that axis and right. There were some people who celebrated the killing. I certainly wouldn't do that. Sometimes they did so unwittingly. These are people who supported, I guess, or at least according to Stephens, supported the massacre in Israel of Israelis. And that these people, according to Stephens, did so unwittingly because they believed there was no contradiction between being pro-Palestinian and supporting Israel's right to exist, or not understanding the implications of the slogans they were chanting. And I think that the slogan he's talking about is, between the river and the sea, Palestine will be free. So what Stevens is saying very clearly in that paragraph is there is indeed a contradiction between being pro-Palestine and supporting Israel's right to exist. He's saying if you are for the Palestinian people, this is what Brett Stevens is saying. It's really, the mask is down completely here. He is saying, is Brett Stevens, you can't be both pro-Palestinian and support the right of a Jewish state to exist. It's either one or the other. He's absolutely right. Now, of course, his view is, he makes an assumption, which he never, ever questions. And that assumption is, of course, Israel has the right to exist. There has to be a Jewish state. That's Brett Stevens' view. He's Jewish, by the way. So, because of that fact, because we have to have a Jewish state on the shores of the Eastern Mediterranean and on the land there where Palestinians did live for millennia, and then they were pushed out, or some voluntarily left, or others were pushed out in 47, 48. Too bad. Suck it. You're stuck. You got to live on the West Bank. You got to live in Gaza. You got to live herded in the sea. You don't get to be free. Because either there's a Jewish state or there's Palestinian self-determination. You can't have both. That is exactly what Brett Stevens is saying. And he's right. There can't be both. The Palestinian people can't be free as long as there is a true Jewish state. Because the Palestinians aren't Jewish. So, what's the solution? Well, two are proposed. One is a two-state solution. And if you buy the two-state solution, then you believe, unlike Brett Stevens, that in fact you can be pro-Palestine and support a Palestinian country, and you can be pro-Israel and support Israel, pro-Jewish state and support Israel. But Stevens says, no, that's a direct contradiction. You can't have that. And of course he's right. Of course he's right. There can't be two states. Palestinian people are separated by Israel, some in the West Bank, some in Gaza. The West Bank is being broken up into little chunks and with all the settlers and colonies there. So, no, if you're pro-Palestine, you have to recognize that a Jewish country isn't going to have to continue. And instead, you need a country where everybody, regardless of their religion, regardless of faith, has the exact same political rights, economic security, and freedom of movement, self-determination. That's what you need. That's the solution. And obviously, that does contradict Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. So Brett Stevens is actually right. The difference between him and me is I'm like, okay, well then Israel doesn't get to exist in the form that you're saying it does. There has to be a secular state that embraces all the people who live in its borders, within its borders. That's my solution. Brett Stevens' solution is Israel does whatever the hell it wants to, because it's either Israel survives as a Jewish state, or we treat the Palestinians like human beings. Okay, you've chosen Israel over the Palestinians. I've chosen human beings over a Jewish state, not over the Jewish residents, not over the Israeli citizens, over a theocracy. Chuck Schumer makes a very similar point in today's New York Times. What American Jews fear most. Now, I find this very irritating for many reasons. But for Chuck Schumer, I don't know where I can even start. Who the hell is he to just assume the mantle of spokesperson for all Jews? or all American Jews. I know he's the Senate Majority Leader, but that doesn't mean he speaks for me when it comes to what I fear as a Jewish American. Not at all. I fear, and I'm a Jewish American, I fear the climate catastrophe, the new Holocaust. I fear endless war, both in the Middle East and in Asia and Europe. I fear extraordinary economic injustice and poverty, not for myself, but for others. That's what I fear. That's not what Chuck Schumer says I fear, because he says American Jews fear most. What he says that we fear most is that critics of Israel embrace anti-Semitism and are demanding that Israel cease to exist, which is, again, absurd. It's not. You can take the position, as I do, that the region should be one state where everyone resides with equal rights. You can take that position and not be anti-Semitic. But he says you can't. No. You have to be. Anyone who doesn't support a Jewish state's existence is a Jew hater. That is the position that Chuck Schumer takes, which is exactly the same as the position Bret Stephens takes. Either we keep Israel going and we oppress and persecute Palestinians, or Israel ceases to exist. Those are your choices. So my choice on that is Israel ceases to exist in its current form as a Jewish state. And Schumer makes some really, and I find it very, very irritating for him to claim the mantle of victim. That's what pisses me off more than anything. Who the hell is he to be a victim? He is one of the most powerful people on the whole planet. He's incredibly privileged. And yet he's, oh no, poor me. Oh no, I might be the victim of another Holocaust. Well, you might be, of course. But what you're much more likely to be is somebody who's killing and persecuting and impoverishing other people by your policies. So, claiming victim status. For centuries, what is good for everybody else has been too often denied to the Jews. Jews could live here, but not there. Jews could hold this job, but not that. Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's how things were. But I don't know. Last I checked, there are lots of Jewish people who have jobs that I think are considered by pretty much everybody to be very desirable. CEOs of huge corporations, big shot lawyers, tech entrepreneurs. So, yes, in the past, it wasn't great to be Jewish. Sometimes in some places it was really bad. Of course, it was really bad to be black. Hell, it was often really bad to be white. It was bad to be Polish. In the 18th century, when Russia and Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire all split up Poland into separate sections and made the Poles third-class citizens in their countries. I mean, there's lots of places, lots of times it was crappy to be Irish. In Ireland in 1847, I think, was that the potato famine? I'm not sure. There are lots of victims throughout history. Jews have been victimized, but they have also been victimizers. So instead, let's stop whining and complaining and beefing about a situation that doesn't exist right now. Instead, let's try to make things better for people who have it really crappy. But I guess that's too much to ask from Chucky. And to declare, and it goes on. So this is the anti-Semitism that Chuck Schumer decries. To declare that only the Jewish people cannot have their own state in any form is a glaring example of that double standard Jewish Americans so fiercely object to. Well, it's complete bull what he just wrote. Only Jewish people can't have their own state? What is he? Who? What? Is that an embrace of theocracy again? You want overtly religious countries that are run by priests, that are controlled by ministers, rabbis, imams? Is that what you're calling for? I kind of think it is, Chuck. And by the way, I think most of us say no people should have their own, no religion should have their own state. And really, no people should have their own state. You have your own state based on where you live. We're Americans. So we have the United States of America as our country. It should be exactly the same thing in Israel or Palestine or whatever you want to call it, Israelistine. If you live in Israel, if you live in Gaza, if you live in the West Bank, you're a citizen of Israel. It's your country, period. The end of it. It's not because you're Jewish. It's because that's where you live. That's no double standard. Even, yes, there have been theocracies in recent times. Iran, after the Shah was deposed, was clearly a theocracy run by the Ayatollah. Not a good situation. I don't think anyone was happy about it. I don't think anyone said, oh, that's a good thing. Some of us, like me, might have said, well, this is what happens when you install a military tyrant like the Shah, because he'll make sure that Western oil companies are able to suck wealth from the desert and from the land and from the Persian Gulf and not pay back to the people of Iran, that they might not like it. They might get bitter and angry and resentful and think it's not fair and decide, hey, maybe we should have a revolution. And even though that Ayatollah is kind of a nut, anything's got to be better than what we've got now. I don't think most people say, oh, that's an ideal. Let's have a theocracy. Let's have a Muslim state. Let's have a Christian state. I don't think most people think that's what we should be aiming for. But apparently Chuck Schumer thinks we need to have a Jewish state. All right. I'm going to try something else here. Haven't been able to get the video, but maybe I can play. We'll see. Maybe I can get Cornel West in. We'll see if this is going to work. Let's play it. Very disappointing. This is the guy, as you well know, I've been championing him. I want him to be president. I've wanted him to be president. Not so much.
And is there the potential of, whether it's back in the Green Party or in another way, of you two joining forces?
No, I mean, I don't see it, though. I mean, I was surprised that she actually announced because, as you know, it was just a few months ago. She was interim campaign manager. This was the right candidate. We got to all get behind Brother West. This is a historic moment and so forth. And then when I decided to go independent, it looked as if it was much more a commitment to the party, a commitment to the Green Party than the particular vision that I was after.
Dr. West is saying that he won't work with Jill Stein and the Green Party because their priorities are the party. They're not Dr. West's goals, Dr. West's policy priority. And I get that, right? I get where you don't want to be in a party that doesn't share your values. I didn't want, and I'm glad he didn't run as a Democrat, because the Democratic Party's values are so completely antithetical to Dr. West. Anti-corruption. Dr. West is anti-corrupt. The Democratic Party is corrupt. Dr. West is pro-peace. The Democratic Party is pro-war. Dr. West is pro-worker and anti-corporatist. The Democratic Party is corporatist, corporate-owned, controlled. Dr. West is for a clean, green environment. The Democratic Party is for placating the fossil fuel industry. So I get why you wouldn't want to be running in a primary or in a party race when the party doesn't share your values. And you're saying that's the case with the Greens, right, Dr. West? How? How are they values different than yours? In every way, they're the same that I can see. And you've never enunciated any area where you don't see eye to eye with the Green Party. Maybe there's some focus issues. I get that you prioritize perhaps to a greater degree than some Greens, some kind of racial equity. I understand that. But no one said you can't talk about racial equity. You're not conflicting. It's not that your position on racial equity conflicts in any way with the Green parties. It's just that other Green Party leaders may not discuss it or focus on it to the same degree. So again, your argument, which is I can't be in the Green Party because it's more about the Green Party than about me, makes no sense, because your views, your values are the same as I see it. And you fail to provide any distinction between your values and those of the Green Party. Right, a little more.
You see, I'm not convinced that the Green Party is the primary institutional vehicle for a mass-based campaign. I think it's proven over time. It's just not.
All right, yeah, the Green Party has struggled very, very mightily. But then what's the alternative? You don't think they're the right answer for a mass-based campaign? Well, what's your alternative, Dr. West?
A mass-based party. And over again, it's been unable to convince the masses of folk that people ought to go their way. By masses of folk, I'm talking about Black folk, poor people, working people.
So why is that? So that's definitely true. And it's very sad. We are not seeing a melting pot or a stew of Green Party supporters. But why, Dr. West? I know you're saying you're not seeing it. I don't see it either, but why is that? And can you change that? And why wouldn't you change it if you could?
People, brown people, indigenous people, and so forth. And so I'm still fundamentally committed to a mass-based campaign, but the party, for me, in many ways, is much more of an obstacle. I discovered that by working in the party.
I mean, it's just absolute nonsense. There's no obstacle. There's no one says you can't go here and you have to go there. No one says in the Green Party you can't speak about this issue. I can tell you what, as a Green Party activist, we would love nothing better than to build a mass movement of Black, white, Latino, Native American, Asians. That we would love that. Why aren't you going to help us do that? Why did you choose not to help us do that, Dr. West? You failed to provide any answer. You say you want a mass movement, but what you are proposing, what you are going for is a cult of personality, your personality. And that ain't gonna work. You ain't gonna win, but worse than that, you're not building anything for the future. The only thing you're building right now is or you can even hope to build, is support for you. And of course, your shelf life is limited. If you want an institution that will last, then you need to be part of a movement that ultimately includes institutions like the Green Party. And if it's not the Green Party, then what is it? Fine. Maybe there's a better option. But what is that option? All right. One more story I want to get to. And I had discussed this. I'm putting this on my website, on the Halitics group page as well. So, Richard Haas is a super neocon who's been a cheerleader for the war in Ukraine. He has been all in. And by the way, tip of the cap, not a cat, cap. Tip of the hat, either hat or cap, not cat, to Jimmy Dore, where I first saw this video, or part of it. And I was thinking about the differences between Dore and me. Dore likes to kind of take victory laps and point out how he was right and everyone else was wrong. And of course, he has plenty of good time opportunities to do that, like when it comes to the, bogus Russiagate story or, any other number of the totally misguided support we have for the Ukraine war. I mean, he's been right. He's right about AOC. He's right about the squad. They're not fighting for us. He's totally right about force the vote. So I think Jimmy Dore, when he takes his victory laps, a lot of times, not always, most of the time, he's got something there. Yeah, you were right, and the people who disagreed with you were wrong, and they'll never admit it, which is even worse. But the difference between us is I don't like the gloating and the chortling. Oh, look, I'm so smart. That's us against them. And I see far too much of that. The answer should be that Jimmy should provide his look. I'm staunchly, not always, but almost always anti-war. I'm pro-peace. And those who are for war have been wrong repeatedly. And they're wrong for the worst possible reason, because they're greedy, because they're power mad, because they're vengeful. So going forward, when you hear from a leader who says we have to support Ukraine to the end of the road, be very, very skeptical. If your Congress is all in for Israel, when it's killing, when it's targeting civilians in the tens of thousands, be very, very skeptical. Let's go to a different model. That's what I'm trying to do here. I guess Jimmy's just in it for himself, and I get that. And he's done well. He's got 1 million plus subscribers. I wish I did. But in the end, he's pitting his large, by YouTube standards, audience of subscribers, but pitifully small when it comes to the entire country. He's pitting that group against the power elites. And he's going to lose. Here's how we win. We build that mass movement that Dr. West was talking about by discussing the policies that really will make life better for millions. And that's what I wish Jimmy would do. I got this stupid ad. I don't want to hear that. But so I'm going to try to get this quick conversation with this guy, Richard Haas, who is all in for Ukraine war.
You co-wrote a new piece this morning for Foreign Affairs entitled "A New Strategy Must Balance Means and Ends." Explain your concern, especially as the White House is managing wars on two completely different fronts.
Well, Mika, the White House is managing two wars, but in both of them, I would say we're increasingly at odds with our allies and partners. We just talked in the previous hour about differences with Israel, about how the war is being fought and about what comes after. In Ukraine, I think we've got a real problem where there's simply an enormous gap between what the goals are of the policy and what the realities are. The idea that Ukraine is going to militarily liberate all the land that Russia occupies, approximately 20% of their territory, it's laudable. I support it. It's just not going to happen. I simply don't think
and Richard, the White House, I mean...
All right, let me just stop it. So what this cheerleader for this disastrous slaughter, this stalemate that we haven't seen the likes of since World War I, trench warfare, no, ain't going to happen. Yeah, I said we should be, all in for Ukraine, but doesn't look good. Not going to happen. So when you hear that, you have to sort of say to yourself, okay, the war's been a mistake. Let's get out of it. Let's stop it. Let's figure out a way to, get the troops home, stop the slaughter, stop the death. That's what we have to do. And it really isn't that hard to come to that conclusion. But I think people, because they've in the past embraced this war and believed in the justice of it, they have trouble, and also people have trouble admitting they were wrong. And certainly Morning Joe has been all in for the war, right? Now he's going to try to, oh no, I agree. Let's get the hell home. Come on. Let's get our material. Let's stop shipping it over there. And let's get the Ukrainian troops and the Russian troops home. There's certainly an opportunity. There are plenty of opportunities for negotiations. Those who say there aren't are just wrong. Russia absolutely would want to negotiate. Putin has made it clear that he's open to some kind of resolution. He's not going to give up Crimea. He's not going to go back to the pre-2022 borders, even if he maintains Crimea. But I'm sure he'll give back some of the land that's been laid waste to over the past 2 years. So let's just stop the killing right now. And for those who say, well, we can't give in to Putin, we can't reward Putin, that is kind of a very arrogant attitude. It's a self-righteous. Oh, we're better. We're better. We're morally superior. We're exceptional. The hell we are. What we've done around the world is more damaging, more harmful than anything Putin's done. Far more. In the past, certainly since the Iraq War through the present. All right, a little more from Haas, and then I'll call it a day. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll get this tech issue straightened out. And remember, Juan Dominguez tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss that.
The Pentagon, a year ago, in February, was saying pretty much the same thing. I mean, we heard about a spring offensive, and they were very, very concerned in February of this year.
Wow.
That these lines were going to be frozen in place, much like World War lines throughout Europe. So the question...
All right, so my question is this, and I'll let you go. Morning Joe, why then didn't you call for negotiating? If the Pentagon, and I'm sure there was a report, I mean, there's lots of reports, right? There could be dueling reports from the Pentagon. One says, oh yeah, we're all in for this spring offensive. And the other saying, doesn't look good. So if you're going to now tout a Pentagon report from last spring, Joe, that talks about the difficulty, the challenges of any counterattack, the small chance that it will succeed, then why have you been supporting it? Why haven't you been going on TV with your cast of neocons day after day and calling for a ceasefire, for peace? I mean, what a maroon. This is the kind of stuff. I don't ever watch this crap. I never do. It's useless to me. I don't even really read the New York Times much anymore. I mean, I read it for this program. I want to know what the paper of record is saying. And the facts, it does provide facts. This is the Washington Post. But in the end, they're not good faith sources. They're promoting an agenda. And that agenda is often completely antithetical to what I want, to what I believe is right. And much more importantly than what I want, is antithetical to the interest of the hundreds of millions of poor, struggling, working class, and middle class, not upper middle class, not bourgeois, but, middle class Americans. The media's reportage reflects their concerns, their preferences, not those of the great majority of Americans. And that's why we are where we are, and why it's going to be so hard, if not impossible, to get somewhere else.